Salazar Slytherin. Salazar Slytherin was one of the 4 founders of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and the figure from whom the entire Slytherin House takes its name. He lived in the 10th century and was known for his prodigious talent in parseltongue, the rare magical ability to speak to snakes, which would later become a hallmark of many of his descendants. His influence began with the very foundation of Hogwarts itself. While Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, and Rowena Ravenclaw all contributed to the formation of the school, Salazar was unique in his vision for selective magical education. He believed Hogwarts should only admit pure-blood witches and wizards, those born from 2 magical parents, claiming that Muggle-borns posed a risk to the magical world. This ideological rift caused a significant divide between him and the other founders, especially Gryffindor. Slytherin's power was deeply magical. He constructed a secret chamber within Hogwarts Castle known as the Chamber of Secrets, which was hidden from the other founders. Inside, he placed a creature capable of purging the school of all Muggle-borns, the Basilisk. Only his true heir would be able to open the chamber and command the beast, which reinforced both his mastery of concealment magic and his foresight in lineage-based enchantment. He was also an expert in dark arts, though not necessarily a dark wizard by modern standards. In early medieval magical history, the distinction between light and dark magic was far more blurred. Still, Slytherin's reputation for creating powerful curses, defensive enchantments, and magically binding bloodline protections far exceeded the magical standards of the age. His wand was equally significant. Crafted from snakewood and containing a basilisk horn core, it was powerful and rare. According to tradition, Slytherin could use the wand without physically holding it. He was one of the few wizards to master remote spellcasting through magical proxies, an obscure and ancient form of wand lore. Salazar's legacy lived on not just through his house, but through a bloodline that included some of the most formidable wizards in history, most notably Lord Voldemort. The core Slytherin traits of ambition, cunning, and magical aptitude weren't just abstract values. They originated from a wizard whose vision shaped the school and whose spells still echoed in its walls 1,000 years later. His influence is still felt every time the Sorting Hat places a student in Slytherin House. Lord Voldemort. Tom Riddle, who later became known as Lord Voldemort, is widely considered the most powerful dark wizard of the modern age. Born to a witch mother and a Muggle father, Riddle was technically a half-blood, but he detested this part of his heritage and identified strongly with his Slytherin ancestry, specifically his descent from Salazar Slytherin himself. Voldemort's power began manifesting even before his formal education. As a child at Wool's orphanage, he could already speak parseltongue, control animals, make objects move without touching them, and cause physical harm without a wand. This level of raw magical instinct, especially in a child without guidance, was extraordinary. At Hogwarts, Tom Riddle quickly established himself as a brilliant student. He was charming, intelligent, and manipulative, hiding his true nature behind a polished persona. He became head boy and earned the favor of nearly every professor, including Professor Slugghorn. But behind the scenes, he was already delving deep into the dark arts. One of his most powerful achievements was the creation of Horcruxes, objects in which a dark wizard hides a fragment of their soul to achieve immortality. While the concept of a Horcrux was known in theory, no one had ever attempted to make more than one. Voldemort created 7. This required acts of murder to split the soul, but also an exceptional command of highly advanced soul-based magic, which few even dared to study. His magical abilities were vast. He was a master duelist with incredible speed, precision, and innovation in spellcasting. He could perform non-verbal and wandless magic with ease. He could fly unaided by broom or thestral, something extremely rare even among elite wizards. He used legilimency, mind-reading, and occlumency, mental defense, to a terrifying degree, capable of penetrating and manipulating minds at will. Voldemort's magical innovation extended beyond traditional hexes and jinxes. He could craft enchantments so sophisticated they confounded the best magical minds at the Ministry. Examples include the protective enchantments on his Horcruxes, like the cursed locket that drained willpower, the burning poison within the Hufflepuff cup, and the fiendfire-guarded diadem. Each of these defenses required a different area of magical mastery, from ancient curse work to elemental conjuring. His duel with Albus Dumbledore in the Ministry Atrium displayed the full scope of his power. It wasn't just his spell strength that was notable, but his improvisation, environmental control, and ability to counter Dumbledore's tactics in real time. Most duelists collapse under pressure from Dumbledore. Voldemort matched him blow for blow. But his power was as much psychological as magical. He instilled fear across the wizarding world. He founded the Death Eaters, a cult-like group of elite followers, and orchestrated 2 wizarding wars. Even after his first defeat, his influence lived on through his followers, his Horcruxes, and the fear his name invoked. What makes Voldemort especially powerful is not just what he could do, but how far he was willing to go. He redefined what was magically and morally possible, shattering boundaries that others dared not touch. His hunger for immortality, control, and domination made him a unique magical force, one shaped by hatred, fueled by fear, and empowered by knowledge very few dared to pursue. Severus Snape. Severus Snape was one of the most dangerous minds Hogwarts had ever produced. Born to a Muggle father and a witch mother, Snape entered Slytherin House and quietly carved out a legacy of magical mastery, espionage, and double allegiance that ultimately changed the course of wizarding history. Snape's talent in magic became evident early. As a student, he was already crafting his own spells, something that very few Hogwarts students, or even adult wizards, ever achieve. These weren't mere novelties. He also developed custom variations of existing spells, altering their mechanics to make them more efficient or more dangerous. His brilliance in potion-making was second to none. When Harry used Snape's annotated Half-Blood Prince textbook in Slughorn's class, he instantly outperformed all his peers, including Hermione. The notes were complete rewrites of standard brewing techniques, indicating Snape's deep understanding of magical theory and his obsession with precision.
Turn to page 394.
But Snape's magical power was not limited to academics. He was a master of both occlumency and legilimency, making him a rare double threat in the mental arts. He could shield his thoughts from Voldemort, the greatest legilimens in the world, while also subtly manipulating others without them realizing it. This allowed him to maintain his position as a double agent for years without detection. Dueling was another of Snape's strengths. Though rarely seen in combat, when he did fight, he was fast, efficient, and unforgiving. In the Half-Blood Prince, he effortlessly fended off multiple members of the Order of the Phoenix, including Minerva McGonagall, whom he held off without seriously injuring. His ability to deflect, disarm, and retreat without exposing himself to danger was a masterclass in defensive and reactive magic. Snape's position at Hogwarts was also significant. As Potions Master, then Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and eventually Headmaster, he wielded institutional power while navigating one of the most dangerous political landscapes imaginable, working under Voldemort while secretly aiding Harry Potter. His magical protection of students during the Carrow's reign of terror and his efforts to preserve Lily Potter's son from behind enemy lines demonstrate a form of power rooted in control, patience, and subtlety. His most powerful moment came after his final hours. It was revealed that he had cast the powerful Patronus Charm, a spell driven by pure emotion. His Patronus, a silver doe, mirrored that of Lily Potter, the woman he loved. The fact that he could maintain this form of magic while surrounded by darkness, fear, and moral ambiguity speaks volumes about his inner strength.
After all this time. Always.
Snape's legacy is complicated, but his magical ability is not in question. He was an innovator, a master of deception, and an elite duelist. But above all, he was someone who used his talents not to conquer, but to protect, even while being hated by those he served. That restraint, coupled with his unmatched skill, is what makes Snape one of the most powerful Slytherins in the entire Harry Potter universe. Merlin. Merlin is the most legendary wizard in British magical history, and according to established canon, he was a member of Slytherin House during his time at Hogwarts. Though much of what is known about him is wrapped in folklore and myth, the magical world within Harry Potter confirms that Merlin was real, and his influence was monumental. Merlin was born in the medieval era, likely during the early Middle Ages, and is thought to have attended Hogwarts shortly after its founding. Despite being in Slytherin, Merlin advocated for the fair treatment of Muggleborns, setting him apart from the house's later association with blood purity. This shows that early Slytherin traits, cunning, ambition, resourcefulness, were not necessarily tied to prejudice. Merlin used these traits not for domination, but for diplomacy and integration. The scope of Merlin's magical power was vast. While exact spells are not fully documented, historical records refer to him as the most skilled wizard of his time. He was said to have mastered charms, transfiguration, and defensive magic to an extent that surpassed even the magical curriculum of Hogwarts. He is often credited with inventing spells, crafting magical artifacts, and advising rulers on arcane matters. One of the clearest examples of his lasting influence is the Order of Merlin, an official award granted by the Wizengamot for acts of magical bravery or achievement. The fact that the most prestigious honor in the wizarding world is named after him speaks volumes about his legacy. The order has 3 classes, first, second, and third, each awarded based on the impact of a witch or wizard's deeds. The establishment of this order shows that Merlin was a political reformer and a cornerstone of wizarding society. He also played a role in bridging the gap between the magical and non-magical communities. In both Muggle and wizarding legend, Merlin is closely linked to King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. While Muggle historians view him as a mythical advisor, the wizarding world acknowledges him as a real historical figure who attempted to guide non-magical leadership toward coexistence with the magical world. This required not just powerful magic, but immense control, diplomacy, and vision. In terms of raw magical theory, Merlin is believed to have pioneered magical codes and ethics that laid the foundation for future legislation. This is evidenced by later ministry regulations that cite Merlinic principles when outlining laws involving magical creatures and Muggle interaction. He was a lawmaker as much as a spellcaster. Perhaps most significantly, Merlin's legacy extended into education. It is believed that several early magical schools, magical syllabi, and the standardization of wand use across Europe stem from his teachings. He helped transform raw magical ability into a structured system of education and governance. Merlin represents the pinnacle of what a powerful Slytherin can be. Not a tyrant or schemer, but a visionary whose intellect and ambition were directed toward harmony and innovation. He reminds us that Slytherin power does not always lead to darkness. Sometimes it leads to greatness that lasts 1,000 years. Bellatrix Lrange. Bellatrix Lrange was one of the most dangerous and violently powerful witches in the Harry Potter universe. Born Bellatrix Black, she came from the ancient and pure-blooded House of Black, a family already steeped in dark arts tradition. She was fiercely loyal to Lord Voldemort and became his most fanatical follower. Her power was defined by ruthlessness, magical skill, and a complete absence of moral restraint. Trained at Hogwarts in Slytherin House, Bellatrix was already a standout student in her youth, but her real transformation came after her indoctrination into Voldemort's inner circle. Unlike many Death Eaters who joined for power or protection, Bellatrix worshipped Voldemort. This obsession made her fearless in battle and completely unshakable in loyalty, even after Azkaban. Her most notorious acts of magical cruelty came before and after her imprisonment. Along with 3 other Death Eaters, she tortured Frank and Alice Longbottom into permanent insanity using the Cruciatus Curse. This wasn't just sadism, it was proof of her strength. The Cruciatus Curse only causes lasting damage when cast with true intent to harm. Bellatrix not only cast it effectively, but prolonged its use to irreversibly break the victims' minds. Even after over a decade in Azkaban, a prison that weakens most witches and wizards beyond recovery, Bellatrix returned stronger than ever. This is extremely rare. Dementors drain hope and magical energy, but Bellatrix remained sharp, dangerous, and completely committed to Voldemort's cause. That alone is a testament to her inner magical resilience. Her dueling ability was nearly unmatched. She killed Sirius Black in a one-on-one duel at the Department of Mysteries. Later, during the Battle of Hogwarts, she single-handedly held off multiple opponents and nearly killed Ginny Weasley. Most notably, she was the last Death Eater standing before Voldemort's final duel, only falling to Molly Weasley after a high-intensity duel where her overconfidence led to her downfall. Bellatrix's spell work was quick, aggressive, and relentless. She used non-verbal magic with ease and favored spells designed to maim or kill. She could apparate and disapparate in confined spaces, create powerful shield charms, and manipulate magical environments to her advantage. Her unpredictability made her especially lethal in combat. In addition to her raw power, Bellatrix was also a skilled occlumens, capable of resisting mental interrogation and magical influence. She participated in the torture and psychological breakdown of prisoners at Malfoy Manor, including Hermione Granger, showcasing her use of both magical and psychological manipulation. While she lacked the political ambitions of Voldemort or the intellectual finesse of Snape, Bellatrix was terrifying because of her pure magical aggression and fearlessness. She didn't hesitate. She didn't hold back. She fought like someone with nothing to lose, and in doing so, became one of the most dangerous witches of the age. Bellatrix Lestrange wasn't a strategist or a reformer. She was a weapon, and in the history of Slytherin House, there are few weapons more deadly. Horus Slugghorn. Horus Slugghorn represents a quieter kind of power in the wizarding world. one built on mastery of magical knowledge, social influence, and strategic discretion. He may not command armies or create dark rituals, but make no mistake, Slughorn's magical prowess and political insight place him firmly among the most powerful Slytherins in history. As potions master at Hogwarts for decades, Slughorn's knowledge of alchemical theory and magical chemistry was virtually unrivaled. He brewed the most advanced potions with ease, Felix Felicis, Amortentia, and Polyjuice Potion among them, each requiring precise timing, rare ingredients, and advanced technique. These potions are capable of altering the course of fate, love, or identity. In terms of academic magic, Slughorn stood at the pinnacle. His understanding of the dark arts was also more advanced than most realized. Slugghorn was the wizard who unknowingly introduced the concept of Horcruxes to Tom Riddle, a fact he would later come to regret deeply. But what's often overlooked is just how advanced the topic of Horcruxes is. Very few wizards in magical history have understood soul-splitting to any degree. Slughorn's ability to explain and contextualize it for a student reveals a deep understanding of magic that bordered on the forbidden. Slughorn's occlumency skills are perhaps his most underrated asset. For years, he resisted Albus Dumbledore's efforts to retrieve the true memory of his conversation with Tom Riddle. Not only did he block the most powerful wizard of the era, he also went so far as to modify his own memory. Memory modification is extremely advanced magic, far more difficult than casting a simple charm. Doing so on yourself without unraveling your own mind is a rare talent. And yet Slughorn was not a recluse or a rogue. He operated within the system and used his power to build networks. Through his Slug Club, he connected himself to witches and wizards of high potential, many of whom would go on to become ministers, aurors, or celebrities. His ability to spot talent, cultivate loyalty, and maintain political leverage made him influential in subtle but far-reaching ways. He never needed brute force. He had relationships, favors, and secrets. Still, Slughorn wasn't only a political creature. When Hogwarts came under siege during the Battle of Hogwarts, he stepped forward. Alongside Minerva McGonagall and Kingsley Shacklebolt, he faced Voldemort directly in open combat. That he survived, when many others fell, speaks to his dueling competence and composure under pressure. He may have avoided conflict for much of his life, but when it truly mattered, he stood his ground. Regulus Arcturus Black. Regulus Black's power wasn't in the spells he cast or the battles he won. It was in the decisions he made and the deception he pulled off at the very heart of Voldemort's operations. Born into the noble House of Black and sorted into Slytherin, Regulus was raised with strong beliefs in blood purity and family legacy. Like many pure-blood Slytherins of the era, he initially embraced the Dark Lord's cause and became a Death Eater while still in his teens. But unlike most of Voldemort's followers, Regulus had the clarity to recognize the horror behind the rhetoric. That shift came when Voldemort used the Black family house elf, Creature, to test the defenses of a secret object, an enchanted locket that Voldemort had hidden in a cave and protected with a crippling potion. Creature was left to die. Only a direct order from Regulus, given long before, compelled the elf to return home. That moment changed everything. Regulus understood something others hadn't. Voldemort was seeking immortality through magical fragmentation of the soul. Regulus correctly deduced that the locket was a Horcrux, a container for part of Voldemort's soul. At the time, no one else, not even Dumbledore, had uncovered this secret. Regulus discovered it on his own, years before the Order of the Phoenix began hunting Horcruxes. He then planned one of the boldest solo missions in the Second Wizarding War. Regulus instructed Creature to bring him to the cave. He drank the same agonizing potion that would later torment Dumbledore, retrieved the real Horcrux, and left a fake in its place with a signed note, R.A.B. That small act of rebellion pierced through Voldemort's layers of magical protection. Regulus had exploited a loophole in magical servitude, leveraged knowledge of family enchantments, and anticipated Voldemort's arrogance. He did not survive the return journey. Creature was ordered to leave him behind while Regulus was pulled into the lake by Inferi. But his mission was a success. The real Horcrux was hidden in Grimmauld Place, eventually passed to Mundungus Fletcher, and then fell into Umbrage's hands before being retrieved by Harry. Every step the locket took after that traces back to Regulus's original act of resistance. Regulus's legacy lived on through Creature, through the Horcrux hunt, and through the shift in what Slytherin could represent. Dolores Umbridge. Dolores Umbridge wielded a different kind of power, one rooted in authority, manipulation, and an unwavering belief in her own righteousness. While she lacked the magical flair of duelists or inventors, her rise through the ranks of the Ministry of Magic, Her grip on Hogwarts and her command of dark tools and creatures earned her a feared reputation. Among Slytherins, she stands out for her ability to control and corrupt institutions from the inside. Umbrage's climb began at the Ministry, where she used charm and bureaucracy to gain influence. She rose to the position of Senior Undersecretary to the Minister for Magic, a role that gave her proximity to power and the ability to influence policy across all departments. She specialized in policy writing, public image, and legal manipulation, crafting rules that appeared orderly while enforcing oppression. Her most infamous chapter came during her year at Hogwarts when she was appointed Defense Against the Dark Arts Professor by the Ministry. She immediately began restructuring the curriculum to suppress practical magic under the guise of safety and tradition. When met with resistance, she was given full control as High Inquisitor and later as Headmistress, achieving total authority over the school within months. She implemented over 100 educational decrees, formed the Inquisitorial Squad, and used fear, surveillance, and punishment to maintain obedience. Despite her lack of complex spellcraft, Umbrage created one of the most sinister magical objects seen in the series, the Black Quill. It caused the user's writing to be carved into their own skin as punishment without the need for ink. This was an illegal and torturous form of magic, yet Umbrage used it openly under the protection of her authority. Few magical tools are so psychologically damaging while remaining non-lethal, and that subtlety made it more insidious. Umbrage also had control over Dementors. She authorized their attack on Harry Potter and Dudley Dursley without Ministry approval, a dangerous move that nearly exposed the magical world to Muggles. During Voldemort's control of the Ministry, she oversaw the Muggle-born Registration Commission, a front for persecution. In this role, she conducted trials that led to the imprisonment and soul removal of innocent witches and wizards, often using Dementors in the courtroom itself. What makes Umbrage powerful is her ability to blend within legitimate systems while abusing every loophole. She didn't need to work in the shadows. Her authority was state-sanctioned, her punishments carried out with official approval, and her cruelty masked by paperwork. She knew how to cloak violence in protocol. She survived both Voldemort's regime and the subsequent purge of his followers, avoiding Azkaban due to lack of direct evidence. Unlike most Slytherins who gained power through magical skill, Umbrage relied on institutional control, legal frameworks, and fear. Her magic was real, but her true strength was in knowing how to make evil look ordinary. For a deeper look into how wands, cores, and allegiance work in the wizarding world, watch Every Wand and Core in Harry Potter Explained.